Well, if this had been any normal year, at this time we'd be getting our meeting schedule sorted, we'd be making sure our best suit was dry cleaned, ready for SALTEX the following week. The guys at the GMA would have been putting the final touches together, they'd been solving all the little problems, the wrinkles that come out through hosting any major show. But this isn't a major year, this isn't a normal year rather. We're in difficult times. That first SALTEX next week's SALTEX was postponed until next March. Now, last week we heard that the March version of SALTEX has also been cancelled because of the return of the second wave of COVID. So it's difficult times. Now, this morning I'm joined by Geoff Webb, the Chief Exec of the GMA. Geoff, it's difficult times, but it couldn't have been that difficult a decision to make. And when did you start thinking that next March was going to be a tricky one to pull off?
Well, I think like everybody else, we watch the news and listen to the scientists and the reports that you get from government, etc. I think really it's when the national lockdowns that we'd all been through back in the spring started to become regional and local lockdowns, and the whole sort of confidence I think that we had going into the winter, or going into the autumn I should say, started to really look as if it was eroding. And then you look at the progression or lack of it with the pandemic itself, and I think we're down but we're not out, and what we had to do is make a decision, I think like we did the first time, decisively and early. And we are calling this as we feel as early as possible, to give our market that chance to, as we said before, regroup, regather and rebuild really. We're ready, willing and able to do a trade show and all the mitigating action that goes alongside that, but I think we've got to act responsibly, and having done the research that we did, both visitor and exhibitor led, I think it's the right decision, despite obviously the hassle, and we won't always keep everybody happy, but I think we're acting responsibly and in good time.
Now, I know last week you'll have been phoning around all your exhibitors, all the people within the industry. Has their reaction been as you would have hoped? Are they fully understanding of how things have turned around, and are they supportive of you going forward?
Yeah, I'm really encouraged by the support that we've had. I mean, I personally was on the phones. We had a whole team of our SALTEX team working away. The only difference is we're all starting to look as old as Mr. SALTEX Derek Walder now, because of these circumstances we're in. But I have to say the kind of overwhelming sort of statement I'm getting back is sensible, and I think that's really sums it up. I think that's what we're trying to be. And I think our communications have been open and honest, and we're giving people, I think, a very fair package to roll over to now the November date. So it means we're back to where we were. So I like I said to you before we started this interview, I feel a bit like Bill Murray and Groundhog Day, or it feels like the second edition of Back to the Future. I just hope there's not a third to go with it.
Now, having spent a long time working at Bigger, I do know that the trade show, in their case BTMA, in your case SALTEX, is what drives and funds so much of what the associations, the great work that associations do. Not having a show for a year, is that going to impact on what the good work that the GMA can do for your members in the industry? And will there be other implications for the association, given that a big chunk of your revenue generation has not been possible?
Well, we have good reserves, and that's always the key to managing your business. So we've taken account of the prevailing circumstances, and we've made decisions based on our business model. So it's hard. We would much rather not take the hit, but I think we're doing the responsible course of action, like I said.
It is unprecedented times and uncharted waters we're in, and we look at where we are as a country, that there will be debt flying around for probably the next 40 years. I don't know that if nobody's got any money, who has? There's only, somebody must have it somewhere. So what will happen going forward, I don't know, but hopefully we will have some degree of normality going forward. Just one other point at the moment, Geoff. One of the big elements of SALTEX is the awards, recognising the great work of your members. Will there be a hiatus year, no awards for 2020 at all, or will you do some sort of virtual version, or what will happen with the awards?
Yeah, well, we already took the decision not to run the awards back in the spring, mainly because of the fact that we just feel that everybody needs to get through this year first. And what we didn't want to do is have candidates having to fill in application forms on top of the work they're already doing, because I think that we've got to recognise the pressures that everybody as individuals or organisations are under at the moment. So we won't be running the awards. We have got, I think, some really exciting alternatives lined up, but I'm not going to reveal them today. But we're working on a few ideas to fill that void, if you like, and we will be making some announcements about that in due course.
Now, we've heard that everybody's feeling there's a special case when it comes to the arts, when it comes to the travel industry, the sports industry. You're obviously close to the ground. You speak to the sporting bodies throughout the country. Do you think there'll be long-term implications for the sporting world on the back of COVID, or do you think, like you said, you've got reserves in place that we're well placed to come through it as well as possible?
We're quietly confident that actually the reverse is happening when it comes to investment in natural turf. Certainly our work directly with the Football Association is going from strength to strength, and we don't see, even with the knock-on effects of the pandemic, that being diluted anytime soon. You may well see, I think, a more coordinated approach through the governing bodies themselves. So I think you may actually see an expansion of interest in how you invest in it. And I think at the professional level, I mean, we wrote an article recently in FC Business, which I'd encourage people to take a look at, backing the fact that if you take away the ground staff as part of your cost-cutting exercise, you're potentially going to cause yourself long-term damage. So basically, don't do that. I think what has happened on the professional side of sport is it's the events industry that's taken the hit. So it's the non-football related activity through hospitality or events, etc. That's really where the staffing cuts have taken place, and largely, and thankfully, the ground staff are still in place. I think the next few months are going to be really telling, and that's again another reason why we didn't feel we wanted to start celebrating awards. We feel what we want to do is look at where the issues are, and hopefully we can be there to support anybody who falls on hard times.
And I think there's an awful lot of the guys at the ground level, the local bowling greens, the smaller golf clubs, the smaller sports clubs. They're probably feeling it more than most, the pandemic area, because bottom line, the grass keeps growing. Their job is still there for them to do. There's maybe not the same support that would normally be there for them in normal circumstances.
Yeah, and I think that's where the governing bodies have got to really step up as well. I mean, I think what we've always tried to encourage them to do is put grounds management at the forefront of their strategies. So quite often you'll see mention of we've got a strategy for the coaches, we've got a strategy for the referees. Well, our argument to them is, well, why haven't you got a strategy for the ground staff that are either employed or volunteered? And I think that message is really starting to come through. And I think government recognise it, and it's not just in sports clubs, it's in your parks, which have become such a vital asset for just mental health this past few months. Protecting the assets of your local community is I think, a massive issue that this country needs to tackle, and that we're certainly lobbying hard on that basis. And, just showing through really good case study evidence what is out there and how you can manage everything quite effectively if you take the right steps and build the right foundations. And picking up on your early point about what are we doing, we already pivoted towards digital communications, and I think you'll see a lot more of that. But also with our courses, we've gone online with, as you know, the level ones, and you'll be getting a press release in maybe even tomorrow from us, which is about our level 2 being launched online this week. So, we're progressing slowly and having to make these changes and adapt like everybody else is to secure a future, really.
Now, getting back to SALTEX, dealing with the NEC, was it difficult getting your original dates back, or have they been they're having difficult problems, I'm sure, themselves dealing with everything and where they are as well in the country? It's one of the hotspots. Have they been good to deal with, and was it easy enough to get your original dates back?
Yeah, in our particular case, I can't speak highly enough of the NEC. We've had an open dialogue with them from the start. We've tried to keep the options always open so that we could get back to that November date if that became the case. And unluckily it has become the case, and we're now working to that end. So it's been a pretty smooth transition. And the other thing I think we've been working really hard with the NEC on is the layout of the show to be COVID secure. So we're basically ready, willing and able. We could run this show next week. It's purely the pandemic that's stopping that. And we've actually done all the mitigating actions that you need in terms of, you would have seen increased entrance points, you would have seen wider gangways, and we'd actually managed it to a level where we felt the impact on, the return on investment for exhibitors with visitors turning up. We could manage that process with a limited sort of knock-on impact, and hopefully now by moving it back a year, effectively we can continue to work on any new initiatives that come through, and hopefully if things relax by the time we get there next year, we'll be in a much better position to put on the trade show that we all want. And certainly we didn't want to run a trade show that was poor for the visitor, poor for the exhibitor experience, and not safe for anybody either.
Well, this would have been my 25th consecutive SALTEX. We started back in '95, the last century. So I'm looking forward to starting another consecutive run in 2021. Whether I'll get to 25, I very much doubt, but I'll do my best to get there. But what I am looking forward to, Geoff, is having the opportunity, November 2021, having a drink with you. We can look back at what we've come through and forward at a good, wonderful future for everybody within our industry. So thanks very much, Geoff. I appreciate the fact that you've come to this decision fairly early and given everybody a bit of certainty, and look forward to seeing you in the flesh before too long, hopefully before 2021.
Thanks, Scott, and I just wish everybody out there, a safe and productive winter, and hopefully the spring will bring some new energy back to everybody, and we can all celebrate together.